Last week, I made a video about my top 3 cat parent mistakes and how I plan to fix them. One of the mistakes that I mentioned in the video was the fact that I was normalizing the idea of my cats getting bored. I noticed that in times where my cats were finding new moments to enrich themselves, I had a habit of blocking them rather than redirecting them to something that they were able to enrich themselves with. Whenever Mochi was bored, I would find her biting on plants. In the past, I would typically take all of my plants and hide them. However, I recognized that was a huge mistake in my judgment as a cat parent. So in an effort to redirect rather than block, I decided that it would be a good idea to build Mochi her very own garden. And I will just say now, it was a huge success and I already plan on expanding it. We keep a garden in our office, and since providing Mochi her own garden, it's actually lessened how much she's tried to interact with the garden in our office, so it's really cool that we're able to open the space back up to her. And then not only that, it really made me realize that this is an opportunity for me and Mochi to kind of bond. When I choose to garden with my plants, I can also kind of garden with Mochi's plants alongside me, and she can interact with her garden while I interact with mine. However, that's going to be something that we'll be seeing more in the summertime. But for now, I'm going to show you the breakdown of how I came up with the idea for Mochi's DIY cat garden. So the first thing that I did was go on Pinterest because I hadn't really seen a lot of examples of what I was looking for as like an item I can just purchase. So I looked at Pinterest for some inspiration on how to come up with a game plan. And after seeing these pins, I started to get an idea of what I was going for. Once I figured out the look that I was going for, I doubled down on researching which plants may be best for Mochi to have. I knew that the money tree that I have here isn't toxic, so I was able to propagate some of those. But through like going a little bit more in depth in my research on what kind of plants are toxic and non-toxic for cats, I realized they actually have an array of options that I could use to build Mochi's garden up in the future. I knew that I wanted to use catnip because she's a big fan of catnip, and I did a project in organic chemistry on the chemical effects of catnip, and she cannot overdose. I also learned that cats are really big fans of wheatgrass. After I did the research on which plants I wanted to go with, I searched in the area for where I can purchase them, and the closest place I had to me was an Unleashed by Petco. Not really the biggest Petco stan, however, I do prefer the selections in their Unleashed locations rather than their just like general Petco locations. I only went to Petco for the plants. They had a shelf that had the wheatgrass and the catnip that I was looking for, so I bought those too. I honestly think I overpaid for them because it was $10 for this little like 2x2, or maybe I don't know how many inches it is, but they're not very large. But everything else I got from the Dollar Tree for less than $5. When it came time to assemble it, I grabbed some gloves and a little extra soil that I had from some of my previous gardening projects. First, I started out with gently separating the plants from the enclosures that they were in because I wanted to change it into something a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, but also easier for Mochi to access. When I was looking through Dollar Tree, I ended up finding this dog bowl that I kind of liked. I knew eventually I was gonna plan on like puncturing holes at the bottom so that the plant thrived, but first I just wanted to see how Mochi responded to it, so I didn't quite put the holes at the bottom yet. I just transferred the plants into the bowl. Once I set them up in a way that I thought was cute and nice, I placed it inside of the clear bowl and then added the rocks for decoration around it. That's when it started to get that kind of zen effect that I was hoping for, and the project really started to come together. And then I set it out in a semi-sunny area. I was so happy with the way that Mochi and Rico interacted with the garden as soon as I was finished with it. It's actually kind of shredded now a bit. The catnip is dying out, so I definitely plan on making this a thing that I expand in the future, and I would love to see the difference in how Mochi responds to a mini garden that's kind of like almost the size of her food bowl to a garden she can actually like walk around in. But that's it. It's one of the easiest DIYs I've ever done in my life, and I honestly came up with the concept out of things that I saw in Dollar Tree. So if you decide to do something like this, you may get inspired to kind of change things up with the options of what's around you. And not only did I build Mochi a garden, but Rico actually had his own habit. In the next video I put out how I came up with a DIY that fixed Rico's habits when he was bored. But that's it. Nothing too complicated. It's a fun DIY. If your cat is into plants, I suggest maybe giving them a garden. I didn't expect this to be such a success, and I feel like this is just another example of how things can turn out when you're just trying to be your best as a cat parent. Don't expect anybody to be perfect, but as long as we're committed to being better, I feel like things work out. But that's all I have for you guys. Thanks so much for tuning into this video, and I hope to see you next time.